to the Dog and Duck and...
Oh, where's everybody?
Good Guinness.
Oh, geez, you organized this thing. Didn't you tell everybody to show up?
Happy birthday. Thank you.
Maybe they're all late.
Where's his daughters even?
No, I'm making myself available for this. Actually, no. We're showing. Well, I think we better start with a couple of beers.
Get this man a drink.
Yeah. Get this man drinking.
We had some Guinness this afternoon and some Black Bush.
Black Bush?
Yeah, Bushmills.
Bushmills, so.
Black Label, that's the
I'll have a rum. Dark rum.
I thought you guys were going to show.
How you doing?
How are you?
Good here. Haven't seen you after ages.
Is it, I suppose?
Ray and Shona are supposed to be coming.
The red light's on.
You're doing what? Well, you're taping. You get the red light on.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're supposed to be.
That means
you're supposed to be steady. You know.
Well, hey, come on, you got to have some action. Everybody's standing still, not saying anything. At least the cameraman might as well be bouncing around.
I took videos of the farm. And came out perfect.
Yeah, I see
First
that.
time,
You got it down here.
yeah, it was the first time I'd ever taken pictures.
Yeah.
And, had it all
I didn't
smooth.
say that. Oh, when did it be fun? That's oh, you got it. That's on.
Hey, where's that picture from?
That was the day the Hornets won. The Hornets won in the American Tigers at put a sheet on it.
Yeah.
That was the Cochrane Rodeo. And Barry Evans rode in that one, Jack Evans' son, and Robbie Orton.
Defensemen using much longer sticks. You can see the difference between defense and the forward sticks. And what they can do, they can get to that extra.
Bobby Dazzler.
Watch the rest of the game. You see, every once in a while, those Canadians are poke checking the puck away from the Oilers.
Cameras, yeah, this is.
Remember the time Oak City came in and
What are you telling me?
No cement tracks here.
Here you go.
No.
So Rick, get a picture of this picture.
Yeah, that's
Not me.
It's got a camcorder.
Hey, this guy just sits in the corner of 6. Wow, is he a policeman? Is he on detention or something? Are you filming?
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I don't want the light to go right into your camera. That's why I'm holding an angle.
Yeah, well, there's no light. It doesn't have a light on it.
He has what?
Oh, it doesn't bother me. I gotta
well, just that.
I don't want to watch that. You sir, that's great. I will treasure that.
That's really
Well, it'll just go up on the wall somewhere.
Yeah, I'll just go up in the walls somewhere. We're gonna have to get a bigger apartment. I don't have room on the walls. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, he works in, of course, warrants. That is really, really nice.
Back spot. He had an accident.
perfect myself. Now you'll have to ask your landlord if you can put up another wall. No, seriously, we did some crazy.
Except it works. Look at that t-shirt.
It's about a 500 square foot house.
Jeff's got one. You saw the one in Jeff's house. Two turned in. There's some smoke coming out and climbing up. That's his nephew. That's why I think.
Hey, we should get in the back of the truck, guys. I would actually look at lights on it. Pull over motors.
When I lost all my weight, Danny really used to call me Candy Gibson.
Hey, Rod and AJ are after doing it. Boy, hey, you're supposed to be, really impressed with everything until they came down here. Legs like this,
That's what Churchill said when Gandhi came over to Britain to negotiate with the British government. He arrives and he gets off the boat. He's got the dhoti on and he's got the Churchill said, I'm not going to negotiate with a man dressed in a white cloth. Imagine Churchill.
That was in Victoria? Or did you go do the...
AJ Barfton, right?
One time he did, yeah, he did. That was Presley, it's almost Presley. Okay, I'll Presley.
the Jamaicans rolled upside down and they're rumbling down the side of the their necks are all
Going through the Omega with their heads pinned to the ice.
to experience that firsthand now.
5 to 7 G's through the Omega.
4 G's, they said.
800-pound sled pinning their skulls to the ice. All the way down the straightaway.
It was kind of fun.
That's how you stop in those things, isn't it?
Hey, I've sledded.
Are so sharp that,
I actually worked out at that track for a whole fall.
Yeah.
87.
Yeah, it's, I wouldn't want to roll over one of those across the rest of things. Helmet or no helmet.
Oh, I'd rather be on a luge going down that track than a boat sled. On a luge, I can nail off.
Road luging they're doing down in California.
I was listening to, we found a
They're
whole table.
pretty catching on.
There was no answers over it.
Road luging. And not only that, they're doing it without shutting the road down. So these guys are coming down with traffic.
They're coming down this must be in San Francisco.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it where they're just coming down the white line and there's cars, coming toward them and everything else. I don't know how they stop.
Like I've done the Astronaut, basically it's a cat track. Sort of a loose size one here. Two for packs.
Just with your body, by meeting.
Do you remember the day that we started working on this place? Don't think she was there. You showed me there. And I stepped on it.
I was there, me and Mom.
I walked in here, I had hush puppies on, and they were ripping the place apart. First thing I stepped right on a big argo, so I reached up before the car traffic. At Easter, yeah, at the Holy Cross.
From the ladies' start.
I'm having a fun start.
Had I practiced more often, we've done it a few times, so we've done it.
I walked in there, I got hold of Williams.
I'm sure it's fun once you
I said, Dan,
everything else.
I said, I got a nail through my foot.
Well, what happened with me,
twisted.
everybody that was there at the time watching me slide, like,
They got it out. I took my shoe off and there's blood flowing.
they were watching,
What the fuck you're doing?
we're all
Jesus
taking
Christ, you got
turns.
blood all over the floor.
Williams would stand in the Chrysler to watch, see how you come around the Chrysler.
Williams built that wall there.
I come around the Chrysler, and like, I was coming down the straightaway, I wanted to try and steer a little bit. And on the luge, you steer with your feet, right? They rest on the two rudders that come up like so. Your legs rest on each side. All you have to do is put one over the inward pressure on either rudder, and you can turn. Abruptly too. Because apparently what I did going into the Chrysler, as soon as I came into the Chrysler, I did a complete 360-degree turn and kept going to the wall. And I didn't know what happened. I thought for sure I was dead.
You came out the other side.
I was still getting going down the road. Everybody was laughing. They told me all about it. How
I
it
had a long
looked.
time trying to find one.
I learned how to, like, I did one time I never steered. Slowly track here.
Otherwise, you find upside down, it's stressing.
X-rays and all that stuff. He says, wait, we're waiting for one other guy. Who walks out? Oh, Gary. We're going down
Just roll on backwards.
You phone everybody and tell them not to come.
See how it's big there? It's big wall there, it's big there. Super Bowl, okay.
He's a nice guy.
2 weekends ago, we got the most in it against the ice. It's upside down, it's no, it just means it's flying properly. What's that?
Okay, phone everybody and ask them not to come. It should have been.
I had nothing to do with this. It's a secret party, I don't think about
What's
it.
in the basement, just all open.
Maybe it's so secret, nobody knows what's going on here. Newford.
parties down
there. Yeah, they want to come.
Can I get another kokanee?
Harvey, they're coming to come see you.
For the night?
Yeah.
Well, Wendy had a sleep out trying to find Rob. They're going around trying to find him. He can stay home by himself, but he phones me all night long.
Well, it's better to have him over
Yeah,
and you don't have to
lonely by himself.
So, hey, Alice, your cup open?
Yeah, he said his friend Christmas, like the hockey buddy,
We're all
so.
three spirits tonight.
Yeah, that's it, no children, no responsibilities.
Brianne's sitting in the back. I feel like Ross tonight.
She put the janitor over
AJ has taste for it now.
Chip and I went to a new pub today, it was called the Dog and Clifford, what was the name of that?
Oh, the dog and the duck. Dog and duck.
Well,
it's,
Derek Fulton's running it.
Where's
that?
It's a hell of a neat spot. They're taking an old house just off the McClure Trail, 57.
Right down my street.
Just before you get to Shore. And it's on the east side. They're taking an old house and turning it a beautiful old pub. Just off McClure Trail, like block off McClure Trail. You know where that Mohawk is? You're on the block past there and turn left. They're just taking an old house and a row of houses right in the corner, and they've got a restaurant underneath, and they're making a wine bar as well, so there'll be the pub upstairs, a wine bar, and a restaurant. 57.
Just off the CDC. Like about a block or two.
Okay, yeah, okay, I know what you mean.
It's absolutely beautiful place. You're doing a good job.
Especially those men who aren't happy to go by the army.
Smile. Andy, smile for the camera. Say safe sex.
That's what I said.
Practice.
That's who signed Dad's book there.
How much time?
Right now.
How about a little happy birthday here? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Andy. Happy birthday to you. What are you doing, man? 50 years old, 2 years ago. 2 weeks ago. You know, Andy said the other day, he told me that he'll never forget losing his baby teeth. And he said he had no idea his father could hit that hard. He was in court one time and the judge says, "You've been found not guilty of theft." And he said, "Does that mean I can keep the money?" We're going to be taking jabs at Andy Gibson all night long, and right now I got to find out what the hell the program is. All I know is that I'm Bill Powers, and I'm going to be emceeing this thing, but what I'm emceeing, I have no idea. Okay, I've got this total itinerary here, and it's got last act, and the fact that if you get shit-faced here tonight, talk to Christine and the Cuff&Billy will pick up your cab fare home. They do not want you driving out of here under the influence, okay? So just so as you know that, the Cuff&Billy will
sure, now you
class
tell me,
act. Never do that. If in fact anything happens and you do get under the weather or on a high, remember that the Cuff&Billy will pick up the tab. But we're going to take a little break here. I'm going to find out just what the program is, and then we'll get started, all right? Have a good time. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Says, well, how much for this oral sex stuff? She says, $50. He says, too much. She says, how much money do you have? He says, I got $20. She says, $20? Why don't you go in the back room and do it yourself? So Andy went in the back room, came out about 5 minutes later, said, that's not bad. Who do I owe the 20 to? Okay, we kind of caught him by surprise. It was a surprise party that wasn't a surprise party. He knew about it, but he had no idea it was here. Let's get the initial reaction from the man of the hour. Andrew, you've got 60 seconds. Andy Gibson.
Well, I'd like to say that...
Thanks very much, Andy.
I'd like to say that I'm speechless, but most of you know a bunch of shit. I'm not speechless. I'm just going to give it to you guys.
Well, we got 60 seconds now.
60 seconds.
I'm timing him.
We're not talking about my lovemaking here, lady. We're talking about speeches. It's,
2 hours in that case.
I am overwhelmed. It's so good to see a man who's rich by his friends, and what I see in front of me here is anything. It's $2, $1.40.90. It's thank you so much. You did have me conned. There's no question about that. But I got to the rugby club and there was 4 cars. I thought, oh, really? Thank you. I really appreciate this, fellas. And you did have me on a double. I'm looking forward to talking to everybody and having a great time. And I'm so glad that all my friends could be here tonight. Thank you so much.
You ever notice that Andy has... I thought they could have got a more expensive announcer, but... Have you ever noticed that Andy has trouble speaking when he doesn't know what to do with his hands? Well, my suggestion is he should hold them over his mouth. We have family, and most of us know number one son, or closest son, if that's the way you want to put it, because we get to play pool with them up here and have a couple of pops with them. But to introduce the family that's here, would you welcome, please, AJ, the younger.
This is spur of the moment, so bear with me. First of all, I'd like to introduce my immediate family. My oldest sister, Rayanne LeBron. My youngest sister, Shona.
Oh, yeah.
We don't admit this very often, but we are Andy's kids. My fiance, Lynn Phillips. And my brother-in-law, Ted LaBrosse. Well, Dad, like I said, this is spur of the moment, but...
I don't think so.
Who's our real father?
50 years has been a long time, hasn't it?
A long, long, long time.
We've been through a lot of good times, a lot of bad times, whether you're pretending you're Indy Andy, jumping out of airplanes, exploring the depths of the Okanagan. Whatever you do, Dad, we love you and happy 50th.
All right.
I think a lot to write.
Some said that AJ couldn't talk. Okay, we're gonna go to an old friend now, and we're gonna ask Ron Fellick to come up and say a few words about one of his old buddies, and Andy just cringed. Because I think Fellick knows a lot of people in the room too.
Fortunately, I don't have my political hat on tonight. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, past and active escorts of Andy.
Stapleton, shut up.
I'm gonna keep my comments very short. I could go on all night, but I just want to tell you one little story. I met the first time I met Andrew, and somebody came up to me and said, "Gee, Ron, seem to be in good health and good shape. There's a guy over there, whatever you do, don't sit down beside him. Well, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, you'll develop knotting disease. And I said, well, what's that? And he says, well, you sit down with him and you'll find out. Anyways, of course, an hour later I sat down with him. An hour later I got up and left. Anyways, that was really unfair. Actually, a very famous politician said to me the other day, he said, you know, and you all know him, Ralph Klein, he said, you know, Andy has everything you need to be a politician. He talks a lot, and in the end, you think about it and you say, he said nothing. To Andrew, he's a good friend.
Sometimes he says it pretty well, though. It wasn't long ago he walked into Leon's and says, I want to look at your sexual furniture. The guy says, I think you mean our sectional furniture. And he says, sectional, I don't care, I just want an occasional piece in my living room. I think it's fitting that we have the booze guy speaking next. And Andy's been around booze all of his life. He was born pissed. And this next speaker has kept him pissed a few times. From Highwood Distillers, would you welcome please Mike Berridge, our former cop himself.
Fat Mike Berry.
Okay, like Andy.
For those of you who don't know me, Andy and I go back to Rocky Mountain Brewery. When Andy weighed 150 pounds, had some hair, and slept in the back of a van. Stinkiest van I've ever seen in my life. It got stolen once and they returned it. Anyways, I wasn't going to be here tonight because I didn't know about it. I was sitting in St. Louis yesterday and Andy came over and said, Mike, there's a surprise party for me tonight. You have to be there. So I went home and opened up a bottle of Molson's beer, and inside the cap it said, Andy Gibson, surprise party. I thought, surely there's going to be 100 people there. Gracie, let everybody know about this. But anyways, when Andy was sleeping in the van, my wife and I felt really sorry for him. So we thought, well, geez, let's get him out of the city. Look at him, he looks so pale and ugly. Let's take him camping. So we took him camping, but he brought a chick with him, eh? So we're out camping, and Andy's not very good at cards, so Andy, I was teaching him how to play crib. We were playing crib, and I kept beating him a quarter a game, double or nothing. About 12 o'clock, he owed me $1,000. And the girl said, you guys coming to bed? And we said, no, we're going to keep playing until Andy wins. So they said, to hell with it, and they went over and got one of the sleeping bags, crawled in. So about 4 o'clock, Andy owed me $3,000. I thought, oh, the hell, so I let him win. He says, oh, that's be good, Michael, if I win. So we go to bed in our own little place, eh? And about an hour later, I hear this big kerfunkle, I look over, and Andy's so excited, he's got a heart on about this big, and he's holding it. He says, Mike, look at this, I've never seen it this big, it's awesome. I gotta go share it with my girlfriend. And I said, well, I'll go with you. He says, no. And I said, yeah, I'll go with you. He says, what the hell would you want to come with me for? I said, that's my dink, you got it. We make this, by the way. I think it's 17. What the hell is it? If you're in the liquor store by any chance, I'm on commission. Here, Andy, I brought you a White Lightning sweater. There you go, big guy. Andy, I brought brought you a poster. Now, when Andy was young, he'd put this on the wall, and now that he's old, he'll just lay it on the floor and dribble on it.
True story about last summer, Andy was playing in the Woodbridge Mercury Golf Tournament out at Cottonwood on the 12th hole. It was a 1964 Ford, I think it was. It was up for grabs for closest to the pin. And Andy said, "I've got to win that prize." And I said, "Why is that?" He says, "Well, it was in the back seat of the 64 Ford that I had my first sexual experience." And I said, "Well, why is it so important?" He says, "Because I was alone." A long time ago, Andy asked me, "Oh, you know the difference between an orgasm and an earthquake?" And I said, "No, I don't." He says, "Can't get an earthquake." Apparently, he told me that one day his wife said, "Well, why is that?" And he said, "Well, she took one of those Cosmopolitan magazine quizzes, which asked the question, that not only did it show that I wasn't passionate, it also showed I've been dead for 3 years." Next on our program, we're going to retire something that Andy wore. Oh, I hope somebody watched it. We're going to retire something, and I'd like to have Roger Taylor come up now, and we're going to retire something that Andy wore in one of his athletic adventures. Roger?
Actually, if the truth will be known, we've been trying to retire Andy for years, but it's never seemed to work out one way or another. Unfortunately, I must apologize. I did forget the jersey when we're retiring. But what it amounts to is Andy's played with our Codger Old Boy organization now for probably since our inception in 19... And my wife forgot to remind me that I should have brought the jersey. I can't even blame her for it. The reason is that it's number 11, and he's always wanted to be a winger.
Oh, you can't retire that number.
This is we should retire. But Andy, I must apologize for not for getting the jersey. I moved just about a month ago, and it's packed away somewhere, and I wasn't able to find it. But
Roger, why don't you retire that tie?
Good point, George. Good point. I thought it went quite well, actually. It is a 1947 tie. Anyway, as I say, I must apologize. At least 30 that I can remember, and he can probably remember you, so he's probably got a better memory than I do apologize, and it's been great playing with you over the years, and I thank you very much.
It's been great playing with you over the years. I don't want to touch that sucker, do I? Maybe I shouldn't have said sucker. I got to tell you a true story that happened. As you all know, Andy and the rugby club has taken several trips abroad and also overseas. And one time, as they were coming back, Andy couldn't get a seat with the rest of the team. All the team was booked in one area, and Andrew was all by himself. It's a long flight, but you never know what you're going to be sitting beside. And as Andy goes towards row 15, and he has seat A, he looked at seat B, and it was a beauty, a 10. Much like one over there, and one over here, and one over here. And Andy said, "Well, maybe not going to be such a bad trip." And he sees she's got a name tag on, so he doesn't really have to introduce himself, okay? So he sits down beside her and he says, "How are you, Nana?" Because the name tag says N-A-N-A. She's, "My name's Debbie, not Nana." He said, "Well, you got a name tag that says Nana." She says, "Well, that's the initials of the association that I belong to, and I'm the president of it. We just had a meeting in London." And he said, "What's the association?" She says, "The Nymphomaniacs Association of North America." He said, "Oh, oh, oh! This might not be such a bad trip." He said, well, tell me, when all you nymphomaniacs get together, obviously you discuss men. She says, that's the only topic, because that's all we know about. He said, well, when you're discussing men, who's the best, the best in the sack? She said, no question. And Annie was waiting for, she says, Iranian men. She says, well, what about number 2? Because he figures his race is going to be number 2. She says, Italian men. And she's incidentally, I didn't get your name. He jumps up and says, hi, I'm Ayatollah Granatelli. He was over at my place the other day, and I said, make yourself at home. He went into the bedroom and put on one of my wife's dresses. He told me that he hasn't had sex for so long, he forgets who ties who up. He says he's got the body of an 18-year-old. Unfortunately, it's tightly wrapped in the fat of a 50-year-old. Told me just a few minutes ago that he's not himself today. Let's the Bearcat says it's better than nothing. You know the difference between Andy and a canoe? Canoe's tip. Andy and a canoe. He reminds me sometimes of an old wine. He smells like he's been in the cellar for 15 years. We got a volunteer to talk about, I like this, okay? And if anybody else has an ugly story, okay? It doesn't have to really be ugly, but any story about Andy's going to be ugly. So, if you wouldn't mind, would you come up and tell us your name and shoot?
I'm from Australia, and I've known Andy quite a few years now, and I had the pleasure of going to California about 12 years ago with him on a rugby tour. And we landed up in Carmel. And of course, Andy, being the guy he is, the promoter, he says, let's go to the Hog's Breath. Well, that happens to be Clint Eastwood's bar. And it wasn't long before it convinced everyone that Clint Eastwood and Sandra Locke was coming down to visit us at the bar. Well, I didn't believe this on the Friday evening, so half the team went off partying somewhere else, and half the team went to the Hog's Breath. Well, on the Saturday, during the game, everyone who had gone to the Hog's Breath was talking about how Clint Eastwood was and a great guy, and gave us sort of a happy hour, etc., etc. And it was told us that he's going to meet us again after the game tonight. So we all had to go back this time, and sure enough, large as life, in walks Clint Eastwood and Sandra Locke. And he did put on a happy hour again, and halfway through the evening, Andy says to Clint Eastwood, and by this time they're on really good talking terms, hey Clint, he says, who's the girl sitting down there in the courtyard by herself? And this was a penthouse centerfold, about 18 years of age. So Clint says, oh, well, she just wants to become a star, and they all come in here. He says, well, look, he said, would you do me a favor? I have a drink, I want to sit with her. Could you come up after about 10 minutes and pretend you really know me? Sure, I'll do that. And Sandra Locke wasn't too pleased. You can't do that, Clint. Don't worry, it's only Andy. So Andy sits down, and he's talking to this girl, and the drinks come on, and she wasn't too receptive to him to start with, And all of a sudden, Clint Eastwood says, well, maybe I should go and help Andy out. So he walks over, stands up, and says, hey Andy, he says, how are you doing? I didn't know you were in town. Why don't we come up to Pebble Beach and stay with me, and we could play golf? And Andy looks up and he says, Eastwood, why don't you fuck off? I'm trying to talk to this lady. Clint Eastwood was lost for words. The rest of the bar broke up. Sandra Locke wet herself. And then Andy says to this girl, I don't know why I come in. Every time I come in here, he says, Eastwood, come in. Why don't you come up to Pebble Beach? He just wants to get in one of my new movies. Let's get the fuck out of here. Come on. And off they went. We never saw him for 2 days.
There is an official part of the program as far as presentations are concerned, and I'd like the Venerable Hal Taylor to come up. Everybody knows Hal, the guy who buys his pants with one hole in the pockets, we count to 11.
Like that, at least I call it.
All right, do.
Well, welcome to the police club. This is the police club, and you're a hostage here because there's an Alberta check stop outside waiting for you. Jerry and I are going to make a few presentations. And presentations, of course, to the birthday party boy. Jerry doesn't want to say anything. As a matter of fact, he's the muscle on the brain. Is that the way he said it? I'll do the speaking, and then we'll go through the acts. We're not the Smothers Brothers. All right, we've known Andy for some time, and both of us combined probably longer than, or older than he is, I suppose, we combined. He's 50 years old, and I was there when he had his heart attack. I wasn't there with him when he had his heart attack. I was there when he recovered from his heart attack. I actually got into the ICU unit, which is quite an accomplishment, actually. I said I am the son of the... and the head nurse said, looked at me and said, I'm this guy. And I did get in. Anyway, Andy, we just get you to stand up here. Jerry's going to give you some. And if you'd open it, please, in front of the people, because these are the gifts from the people.
All right, this one.
So you're tearing the Sunshine Girls up, eh?
Hello. Now this is really something. I snooped his body and his head. I arranged the Sunshine Boy with the Calgary Sun front page, and it's Andy's 50th birthday. You'll all see it, I'm sure.
Balding tries.
I'm gonna get you here. Isn't that fucking funny? You get to be crotchety in your old age. That's before I met you. That's before I met you, eh? Oh no.
That's how we met him.
Morning, Trax.
Only us athletes can have these things. All right.
One of the stories I like about Andrew goes back to when he was a youth, like he was 15 years old, and he walked into this drugstore and he says to the pharmacist, I'd like some condoms. The pharmacist says, how old are you? And he says, I'm 15. The pharmacist says, that's pretty young to be buying condoms, isn't it? And he says, well, maybe it is, but there's a girl at school who says that if I have the proper protection, after we have dinner with her parents tonight, she'll take me upstairs and she'll take care of me. The pharmacist thinks about it for a minute. He doesn't want to sell them to a 15-year-old kid, but the kid's going to go somewhere else and buy them from another pharmacist, or he's not going to get them and some 15-year-old or 16-year-old girl's going to get in trouble, so he sells them to him. So Andy was over to the girl's place that night, sits down at the supper table, and her father says, you have to say grace. Andy gives you the most eloquent 15-minute grace you've ever heard in your life, follows it up with 22 Hail Marys. They have dinner, they're out the front porch, and she says, Andy, you didn't tell me that you're religious. And he said, you didn't tell me your dad was a pharmacist. Another true story about Andrew went to a horse auction once and spent $6,500 on a broken down filly. And after the auction was over, he goes out to the barns, and there's the vet just working like crazy on this horse. And he walks up and he says, is she sick? The vet says, well, look, she's not a picture of health. And then he says, will I be able to race her? The vet says, yep, and you'll probably be able to beat her. It's time to hear from the man of the hour, and you don't have that much time this time either, Andrew, okay? A little bit longer than 60 seconds, okay? Our man, Andy Gibson.
Well, I've listened to everybody here, and I appreciate what everybody said. Roger Taylor, indeed, we have played for many, many years, but I mean, how can you take compliments from a guy that was a fashion consultant for the Waltons? He says he lost the jersey because he was moving. How can you lose something when you move a teepee, for Christ's sake?
Big teepee.
A big teepee, yes, one of the two-story teepees. Actually, Roger doesn't even know his heritage. I met his dad one time, and Roger, for 25 years, has been telling me he's a Blackfoot. He's nuts. Where's Will? There's a pillar there somewhere. Will? He's over there. Yeah. Never told me about behind the bed. Anyway, I really am overwhelmed. You can tell all the funny jokes about looking in the mirror and looking at your body and saying, if I'd known you were going to last this long, I would have taken better care of you. I have had a good life for 50 years. I've been up and down, and I've had some really serious tragedies. But I'll tell you what, in this city of Calgary, there's a lot of people who put a lot of store by money and success and one thing or other. What I have is friends. One fellow once said that your friendships are made in your youth. If that was true, all my friendships are made in Scotland. The people I have met here have been supported me and looked after me, and when I look around me tonight, I am overwhelmed. It's just absolutely marvelous. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I'd like to thank everybody for being my friends. I'd like to thank everybody for supporting me in the bad times, the good times, and actually, I'm not really 50. I lied to everybody. So you're all screwed. About 8 years ago, I had a heart attack, and clinically I was dead. And thanks to some nice people at the Foothills Hospital, and some people got me there. They got me alive, so I'm actually only 8 years old. So another 42 years from now, which will make me 92, you can all come back to my other 50th birthday. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. I don't want to try and single anybody out. My close friends who put this party together, my friends who have come here, my friends who have supported me in the tough times. Thank you. I know the French name is
I'm sorry to interrupt this proceeding, but I have to...
Oh, no.
somebody, and I'm not sure he's here, but you folks can help me out, won't you?
You bet.
I'm hunting for somebody, and this man's height is approximately 6 foot, but nobody will tell me for sure if it's 6 foot or 6 foot something. He weighs about 200 pounds. He has hair that's silver, receding, balding with a glare. They say weight slim, but they're not sure.
Not here.
And other outstanding features are that he has a mustache and an accent which is either Czechoslovakian or Scottish.
What about a tattoo, lady?
Nobody has actually said that, but that could be. Do you know this man, sir?
Yes.
His alias is Brigadier.
Brigadier. Oh!
And I think his real name is Andrew Gibson. Everybody knows this man, he is considered dangerous. Do not even associate with this man.
We never give our friends up. He's over there.
This man has been seen most of his life in...
this is when he was away from whatever he's doing now, whatever he did before, and this lady was in the bathtub upstairs, and she's just casually having a bath, the doorbell rings, and she walks down and says, "Who is it?" And the guy on the other side, who was Andy, says, "The blind man." She said, "Well, what the hell?" She opens the door, and Andy says, "Nice tits, lady, where do you want me to hang these blinds?" I have a volunteer for a story. Okay, Pat, come up here. I fear allowing this to happen. However, it's going to happen. Get off my ass. Chug a lug, chug a lug. Drink wine.
Just a very quick story about Andy. I think that first of all, there was mentioned that the fact that Andy doesn't tip. And I think we should address the fact that Andy's making a little tight with money. And I have to appreciate that after knowing Andy almost 20 years now, that's not necessarily true. One thing about the family is that the family has always been one to sort of hang around with exotic animals. AJ with his tarantulas and parrots. AJ with his tarantula and parrots. Shauna with some of the boyfriends. But Andy phoned me one day after he moved into the Newford Hilton in the basement, invited me up for dinner. And then he said, "Well, listen, I really want to introduce you to my new dog." I said, "Well, that's fine." I wasn't too sure whether it was two-legged or four-legged. But I showed up. And I'm not in the door 2 seconds, and Andy yells out, "Fido!" And out comes a four-legged dog on two legs in an apron and walks up and says, "Hello, you must be Pat." He said, "The dog talks." He says, "This is a magnificent dog. What do you see?" He says, "Fido, get Pat a beer." Fido runs back into the kitchen, comes out with an ice glass, beer, pours it. Beautiful. Look.
Oh, sorry. I'll take that.
The next thing you know, Andy says, "Come on in for dinner." The table's laid out, candelabra, beautiful Chateaubriand dinner. It's just magnificent, all done by Fido. Andy says, "Fido, I think we need a brandy." So Fido runs off, brings back a brandy. "Anything else, sir?" And he says, "Well, you know, we should have a cigar." I says, "Sorry, you and Newford smoked all the cigars." He said, "Well," Andy reaches in his pocket, pulls out $10 and says to Fido, "Run down to the store and get us some cigars." Well, sure as gun, Fido takes off. He's gone about, 10, 15 minutes. And he said, "I can't understand this. What's taking him so long? The store's only a block away. Let's go, it's a nice night." So we walked on down, we go by these bushes. And there's Fido, got a French poodle, and he's making love to him. Andy says, "I can't believe this dog. Fido, what are you doing? I'm flabbergasted. You've never done this before." Fido looks at Andy right in the eye and says, "Hell, Andy, I've never had the money before." Jack Donahue, you got a story? No, not yet. Well, we're about ready to close it. We might give Andy another shot up here after that beautiful strip tease that we saw. Nice Hooters, right, Andy?
Oh, great Nortons. Tell us about your try. I want to hear about your try.
Did he had a try?
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
He tried to get laid, that's what he did. He never had a try. You had a try?
Well, I've said all the nice things, and I do appreciate everybody being here. And but when that lady started to take off her clothes, and I saw the size of her, I immediately thought about my friend Newford. I was ready to shout for help. Twice around her was a mile. It was great. I don't know if this thing's ending right now, but most sincerely to my family, I love you all. Thank you very much for everything you've done for me. You kept me going. To all my friends, a rich man is truly rich when he's got friends, and obviously I have friends. I'm very rich. Thank you so much. And I'll tell this slowly for you, Sean, okay? I've got great Irish friends, great Scottish friends. I've got great friends all over the place. Thank you so much. I really am most sincerely, deeply touched that this many people would come together for my birthday. Thank you so much.
I'll just leave you with one of my favorite stories. It's about the
Great job. Hell of a job.
kid who walks into his dad and says, "Dad, what's the difference between theoretically and realistically?"
Oh, I can't tell.
The old man thinks for a minute.
It's a secret.
He said, well, son, go upstairs and ask your mother if she'd go to bed with a man other than myself for $5 million. So the kid goes upstairs and says, Mom, would you go to bed with a man other than Dad for $5 million? And she thinks about it for a minute. She said, well, financially we'd never have to worry again. I wouldn't have to work that part-time job. Your dad wouldn't have to work overtime. The family could get closer together again. Yeah, I would. So the kid comes downstairs and says, Dad, she would. And he said, okay, go upstairs and ask your sister the same question, if she'd go to bed with a man for $5 million. So the kid goes upstairs and says, Sis, tell me something, would you go to bed with a man for $5 million? She thinks for a minute and says, well, money would never be a problem. I wouldn't have to go to university like Dad wants me to. I could travel the world like I'd like to do, and I wouldn't have to look for Mr. Right. Yeah, I would. So the kid goes downstairs and says, Dad, Sis would too. The old man says, well, therein lies the answer to your question. The kid says, Dad, I don't understand. He says, the difference between theoretically and realistically. He says, Dad, I still don't understand. He said, son, theoretically, there's $10 million upstairs. Realistically, we live with 2 Hooters. Andrew?
Hey, is that what the sheep is?
We're just going to wrap it up, and we've got one more, and I hope they keep coming.
Well, I've got to tell you, I've been on a few trips, as I said before, with Andy, but the worst one I heard about was when there was, Andy took 4 guys in his van up to Vancouver, and he was, shouldn't have been driving the way he was, and all of a sudden he wiped out, and all 4 guys were killed, including Andy, you see. So, anyway, Andy's just climbing the ladder to the big high sky, and the ladder up into the sky, and the first guy he meets on the corner of the way up the ladder is Hal. And he says, hi Hal, what are you doing here? Hal says, don't talk to me, he says. And Hal had sitting on his lap a really, really ugly girl. And really ugly. And Andy said, well, what's the girl, Hal? And Hal says, well, it's all your fault, he says. You got us wiped out, he says. All I know is that they kept saying I got 5 years with this girl because they caught me cheating on my income tax. He said, oh, tough luck. So off he went up a little bit further. And there was Luther halfway up the ladder, he said. And if you thought the girl on Hal's leg was ugly, you should have seen the one that Luther had.
I've seen her!
So, Andy says, how you going, Luther? He says, don't talk to me, you asshole. He says, look what I've got. He says, they caught me cheating on my income tax and I've got to spend 15 years with this girl. He says, tough. So he carried on climbing. All of a sudden, Andy sits down and he looks up and there's this most beautiful girl you've ever seen in your life. And they say, sit down. And Luke sort of looks up there and says, well, Andy, how come you got the best looking girl? He says, I know, she keeps complaining that she got caught out on her income tax.
It actually is not a bad story. Just maybe better prepared.
Yeah, he's English.
But he is English, that is the problem. Yeah. Andrew, you're talking about friends in the room. You know there's a lot of friends, but the people who worked the hardest to put this sucker together,
yes.
And they did work hard. I'd like to recognize Bobby Hilton.
Yes, Bobby.
Of course, the Newper. Larry Slater, there's Heather, and the venerable Hal Taylor. We're wrapping it up for the official part. It's party time, and we're going to get into some music here. And this guy is very talented. He also used to play in a group with Ron Nolan and Frank Boyd, and those 2 guys are going to do some music for us. How are we? Okay.
Yeah, no.
Take it over.
No, I'm not taking it over. I just have an announcement. Those people from Renfred, I remind you that you get paid by Larry at 10:30 on the way out.
Andrew, I know you had a good time. I hope the rest of you did, and I hope you have a good time for the rest of the night. Thank you very much. Have a good night. coming to Canada in 1969, here for a couple of years, and then Andy Gibson just after my wife and I arrived here. And Andy has been teaching in person. Known the longest in Canada, and not long after we got together, we met up with Ron Nolan, and we formed a group that called ourselves the Cottage Folk. And this was long before folk music was sort of the in thing in Calgary. And we sang in all sorts of creepy places and did a few things, but we never really took it all that seriously. We drank more than we ever earned. But we have absolutely not sang together for several years. We haven't learned a single new song. So we're going to sing 2 or 3 really old songs. You gotta listen because we got no amplification and you won't be able to hear us, but we would like you to sing along. You know the words. This is the Cottage Folk, for those of you who don't remember it. Hey, just want to say one last word. Just one last word. We had our own sort of celebrity. He came up here and MC for us, Mr. Bill Powers. I don't know, he's a radio celebrity. You can turn him in the morning. Sports is his specialty. At least he did something here tonight. With no lines, no direction, he did himself. And that was Bill Powers. And just like a round of applause. Thank you.
Well, here I am from Paddy's Land, the land of Irie now. I've broken the hearts of all the girls from out of Katie's town. And when they hear that I'm a wall, they raise a hullabaloo. When they hear about the handsome lad, they call out on the hill. For I'm the guy that please her, and I'm the guy that squeeze her. I'm the guy that squeeze her, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll torture her like an Irishman, they broke and party through. Here, Mulligan's Mulligan, Mulligan's Mulligan, bold along the hill. I hate the rose and red rose run on your garden wall. I need to be a Jew, up and I wonder how I fall. There has to be, I think of me, a rather heavy Jew. They put some on the handsome lad, they call it on the hill. I'm the boy that please her, and I'm the boy that tease her. I'm the boy that squeeze her up, and I tell you what I'll do. I'll torture like an Irishman, and be broken, blarney to me. Be Mulligan, 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 bold on the hill. I hear that Queen Elizabeth has a daughter fighting crown. But if she should take it into her head to marry an Irishman, then like I can get a chance to have a word or two. I know she'll take a notion through the bowling on the hill. I'm the boy to please her, and I'm the boy to squeeze her. I'm the boy to squeeze her up, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll torture like an Irishman, and be broken, blarney to me. Be Mulligan, 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 bowling on the hill. Yay! Tell me, Ma, when I get home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. Pull my hair, stole my comb, well, that's alright till I get home. She is handsome, she is pretty, she is the belle of Belfast City. She is courting 1, 2, 3, please would you tell me who is she? Albert Mooney says he loves her, all the boys are fighting hard. Look at the door, they ring the bell, say, oh my true love, are you well? Out she comes as white as snow, rings on her fingers, bells on her toes. Walter Murphy says he'll die if he doesn't get the girl with the Roman island. When the rain and the hail blow high and the snow comes rattling from the sky, she's as sweet as apple pie, and she'll get her own love by and by. When she gets a lad of her own, she won't tell her love when she gets home. Let them all come as they will, for it's Albert Mooney she loves still. Tell me, Ma, when I get home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. Pull my hair, stole my coat, but that's alright till I get home. She is handsome, she is pretty, she is the belle of Belfast City. She is courting 1, 2, 3, please would you tell me who is she? Albert Mooney says he loves her, all the boys are fighting on her. Knock at the door, they ring the bell, saying, oh my true love, are you well? On she comes as white as snow, rings on her finger,
I'm gonna do a little, are you gonna sing?
I can't.
I'm gonna sing. Bill Powers is gonna sing! I am not gonna sing, that's a lie. I do want to introduce a special guest. And we alluded to him, that's a big word, isn't that, alluded? We've alluded to him a couple of times tonight because at one time, Andy was his elected chauffeur, the only chauffeur ever to get knocked for impaired driving. Would you welcome, please, our minister of whatever he wants to be, whatever he wants to be it, the former mayor of our town, a former newsman at CFCN, and if I go through all of his past whatever he did, the best thing he ever did was being the mayor of our city. Would you welcome, please, Mr. Ralph Klein. Ralph, I want you to get up here and say a couple of words about Andy Gibson and how he almost took your life a couple of times as your chauffeur.
Andy says he loves my hair. I love his hair too.
Only $5, eh?
Perfect. Well, folks, I'm so very, very honored and proud to be here. I'm just very glad to be here, period. Other than in Edmonton, I'll tell you that. And to, how do you congratulate someone on their 50th birthday? I guess you don't. You just kiss him on his bald head, and you say, Andy, please don't drive me anymore. He's a beautiful, wonderful individual, folks, and if you ever had the opportunity to work with this man, and I'll tell you what, he does a hell of a lot better as a landman than he does as a mayor's assistant. But Andy, on behalf of Colleen and myself, we love you very, very much. You have always been part of our lives, always will be part of our lives, and if you reach 50 years of age,
It's amazing.
it is absolutely amazing. You've got it right. We love you and happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you, Ralph. And while we're doing it, behind every man there is a stronger woman, and we failed to introduce, or I failed to introduce, Ralph's wife, Colleen. Colleen, would you stand up? Let's get back to the boys and some music. You guys are doing not a bad job. You just get that asshole to sit down and one in the middle.
This guy is phenomenal.